18-year-old Louise Ogborn was from Taylorville, Kentucky. She was a church-going high school senior and former Girl Scout on her way to graduate high school. Her mother suffered from health problems and had recently lost her job, so Louise stepped in efforts to do whatever she could to help make ends meet by working at Mount Washington's McDonald's. Soon enough, she began taking extra shifts, including working through their evening rush to make a few extra dollars. On April 9, 2004, just 4 months into the job, Louise took on another double shift as usual when the unusual happened. Louise was working a double shift when a caller asked to speak to her manager and identified himself as a police officer named Officer Scott. The alleged police officer told her manager, Donna Summers, that an employee on duty had stolen a woman's bag and went on to describe a slightly built young white woman with blonde hair. Donna then believed the description provided matched Louise Ogborn. This officer then demanded Louise to be searched at the restaurant because no officers were available at the moment to handle such a minor matter. So then they brought Louise to an office and ordered her to remove her clothes, which Donna then placed in a bag and took to her car as she was instructed. Another assistant manager, Kim Dockery, was also present and believed she was there as a witness to the search. Louise then put an apron on to partially cover herself. After about an hour, Kim left and Donna told this caller that she needed to be working at the restaurant's counter. The caller responded that she needed to bring in someone else she trusted to assist with the investigation. So Donna first asked Jason Bradley, one of the restaurant's cooks, to watch Louise. When the officer ordered him to remove Louise's apron and describe her, he refused but didn't attempt to call the police. Donna then called her own fiancé, Walter Nix, to help, and he went to the restaurant and took over for her. After being told that a police officer was on the phone, Walter could be seen obeying the caller's instructions for the next 2 hours, and this is what he did. He removed the apron Louise was wearing and ordered her to dance and perform jumping jacks while she was naked to shake loose of anything that she might have been hiding. Walter then ordered her to insert her fingers into her and expose it to him as part of the search. He also ordered her to sit on his lap and kiss him, and when she refused to do so, he spanked her until she promised to do so. The caller also spoke to Louise and demanded that she do as she was told or face worse punishment. After she was in the office for 2.5 hours, she was ordered to perform on Walter. Donna returned to the office periodically, and during these times, she was instructed by the caller to cover herself with the apron. The caller then permitted Walter to leave on condition that Donna would find someone else to replace him. After he left, he called a friend and told them, "I have done something terribly bad." With Walter gone and the restaurant being short on staff due to the dinner time rush, Donna needed someone to take Walter's place in the office. She then spotted Thomas Sims, the restaurant's maintenance man, who had stopped in at the restaurant for dessert. She told him to go in the office and watch Louise. He, however, refused to go along with any of the caller's demands. At this point, Donna finally became suspicious and decided to call a higher-level manager whom the caller earlier had claimed to have been speaking to on another phone line. While speaking with her boss, Donna found out that she had been sleeping and had not spoken to any officer, and that's when she realized the call was fraudulent. The caller then abruptly ended the call and an employee dialed *69 before another call could ring in so they could get the number of the caller's telephone. After, Donna became hysterical and began apologizing, to which Louise, now shivering and wrapped in a blanket, was finally released from the office after 3.5 hours of humiliating torture. The police were called to the restaurant and arrested Walter on a charge of sexual assault, and to their horror, the entire incident was recorded by surveillance camera in the office. Thus, they began an investigation to find the perpetrator behind the call. After doing a simple word search on the internet, Mount Washington police quickly realized that this situation was only the latest in a long string of similar incidents that extended over a period of about 10 years. None of those incidents, however, had continued as long or with as many people involved as this one. Their initial suspicion was that the caller had originated from a payphone near McDonald's, where they could see both the police station and the restaurant. However, police later determined that the call had originated from a supermarket payphone in Panama City, Florida. Having learned that the call was made with an AT&T phone card and that the largest retailer of such cards was Walmart, they contacted the police in Panama City. Their police informed them that Detective Flaherty in Massachusetts was already conducting an investigation on the matter. Several similar scam calls had been placed to Boston area restaurants, and Flaherty had already pulled surveillance camera footage from a Walmart in Panama City. Following their lead in using records of the Panama City Walmart, it showed the cash register and the time of purchase of the phone card, which made them able to find surveillance camera footage of the purchaser of the card. The Massachusetts investigation had gone cold when their surveillance video failed to show the purchaser, since their cameras had been trained on the store's parking lot and not on the cash registers. The purchaser in Panama City's Walmart was wearing a correctional officer's uniform of the kind used by Corrections Corporation of America, a private security firm. Videos and still photographs from the two Walmarts were compared, and the same man was seen entering and exiting the Mass Walmart at the time when a phone card was purchased there. Police used these images to produce front and back composite images of the suspect. They also reached out to the private security firm's HR department, which finally led to the identification of the phone card buyer, David Richard Stewart. "38-year-old David Stewart was working as a security guard at Walmart in Panama City, Florida. He was married to a woman named Julie Stewart and the father of 5 children. A search of David's trailer revealed guns and holsters, dozens of applications for police department jobs, hundreds of police magazines, police-style uniforms, and training manuals. Police also discovered he attended a local police academy and volunteered as a deputy with the small police department in West Florida. This all showed that he definitely fantasized about being a police officer. During his questioning by police, David insisted he had never bought a phone card, but detectives also found one in his home that had been used to call 9 restaurants that past year. In June 2004, David was extradited in Kentucky and charged with solicitation of sodomy and impersonating a police officer. Facing a possible 15 years in prison, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. On October 31st, the jury found David not guilty. They cited a lack of concrete evidence that he had placed the calls. There were no witnesses to identify David as the caller, either by confirming he was at the payphone from where the calls originated or through his voice, since there was no recordings. The evidence against him quickly became purely circumstantial. He remained a suspect in similar cases in the U.S., and police stated later that since David's arrest, the phone calls had stopped. Three years later, while still in therapy, Louise sued McDonald's for $200 million for failing to protect her. Her grounds for the suit were 2 things: that their corporate headquarters were aware of the danger of a possible hoax because they had defended themselves against lawsuits over similar incidents at its restaurants in 4 other states, and also that they've been subjected to similar hoaxes at least 2 years before the Mount Washington one, and they didn't take appropriate action as directed by their own chief of security. The restaurant's manager, Donna Summers, also sued McDonald's for $50 million for failing to warn her about the previous hoaxes. However, McDonald's came back with 4 main points for their defense. The first being that Donna deviated from the company's management manual, which clearly prohibits strip searches, and therefore McDonald should not be held responsible for any action of Donna outside the scope of her employment. 2. Workers' compensation law prohibited employees from suing their employer. 3. Her fiancé Walter Nix, who actually performed the acts, was not a McDonald's employee. And 4. The victim did not remove herself from the situation, contrary to common sense. The civil trial went from September to October 2007, and the jury decided that McDonald's and the unnamed caller were each 50% at fault for the abuse to which the victim was subjected. Thus, they awarded Louise with $5 million in punitive damages and $1.1 million in compensatory damages and expenses. Donna Summers was awarded $1 million in punitive damages, later reduced to $400,000, and $100,000 in compensatory damages. McDonald's was also ordered to pay $2.4 million in legal fees to the plaintiff's lawyers. After the court decisions, McDonald's revised its manager training program to emphasize awareness of scam phone calls and protection of employees' rights. In late 2005, John Quinones with ABC Primetime released an episode where they interviewed both Louise Ogborn and Donna Summers on the Mount Washington phone scam. In the conversations, Louise expressed what she went through in that moment, while Donna acted completely oblivious.
Now, you know, people watching this are going to be saying, Donna, what were you thinking? You're strip searching this girl in the back office, following the instructions of a voice on the phone.
Who I thought was a police officer.
Did you think of calling the police department?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Calling her parents, maybe?
No.
Did you trust her?
Well, of course I did. She was my manager. She was supposed to take care of me.
Why couldn't you run out?
I was naked. I was scared. I mean, any normal person in that situation, they wouldn't have ran out.
You're convinced there's no way you could have done it?
There's no way.
Did you think about it?
I wanted to so bad. I wanted to run.
And you would have had to have run through the restaurant.
I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have ran out the back door. I couldn't have done anything. I couldn't bring myself to humiliate myself worse than I already was.
Jason had come out of the room and he was mad. He just told me it was a lot of BS.
So when he says it's a lot of BS, didn't it cross your mind maybe it is?
I didn't know what he was mad about.
I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I was petrified.
You see her face. She's pleading. She's crying. She's bawling her eyes out.
She wasn't crying or bawling her eyes out when I was there, no.
But the surveillance video clearly shows a crying Louise being comforted by Summers.
You left this middle-aged man with a naked, frightened...
She was covered.
With an apron.
She was completely covered.
But as the video shows, Louise is tugging at the apron, which barely covers her top. Sides of her legs are exposed up to her buttocks.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking I was following the instructions of what a police officer was telling me. I didn't think Wes would do anything. I trusted him.
When you walked into the office, what would you see between her and Walter?
She was sitting on one side, he was sitting on the other. They weren't saying a whole lot.
And she was covered.
And she was covered up all the time.
But there's at least one occasion when Summers comes in before Nix throws the apron over Louise. When we try to show Donna Summers the videotape.
You say you didn't see her without her clothes on, but there she is. And you walked
Okay, we're not going to answer questions about
right
that.
past it. She can't talk about this?
Not about that.
Summers' attorney, who's off camera, won't allow her to respond.
Why didn't you tell Donna at that point?
I begged her every time she came in the room, get me out of here. Please get me out of here. Donna, please, please. I didn't do anything wrong. Please believe me.
And she puts her head on your shoulder. And she told us she was saying to you, please help me.
No, she didn't. It's not what she said.
Couldn't you feel her head on your shoulder?
I don't recall that particular incident. I don't.
She says she's begging you to rescue her.
She never said that to me.
The same night of the hoax, Donna Summers watched the entire surveillance tape and broke off her engagement to Walter. She was also fired from McDonald's for violating corporate policies prohibiting both strip searches and for allowing a non-McDonald's employee to enter the restaurant's office. In court, she entered an Alford guilty plea where she pled guilty but maintained her innocence to a single count of unlawful imprisonment as a misdemeanor and was sentenced to 1 year probation. Kim Dockery, the other assistant manager, was transferred to work at a different location. As for Walter Nix, he pled guilty to sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, and unlawful imprisonment. The judge agreed to a plea deal for him in exchange for his testimony against David Stewart. Due to the level and length of his involvement in the physical crimes, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. As for David Stewart, the now mid-50-year-old prefers to stay well away from the limelight. It is reported that he presently resides in Michigan with his family, though it is not certain. Because of the situation, Louise underwent therapy and medication to address her PTSD and depression. At only 18, she abandoned her plans to attend the University of Louisville, where she had plans of becoming a pre-med student. On December 14, 2022, Netflix released a 3-part docuseries on the bizarre events called Don't Pick Up the Phone. Today, Louise is still in Kentucky and happily married to her husband, Jason Bolin, with whom they share 2 daughters. Since the incident, she has been leading a quiet life away from the media hassle with her family. May Louise reach absolute healing and continue to live happily. And thank you all for watching.